Welcome back, folks. It's good to see you again. And today we're going to talk about the start of Jesus' time as a wandering preacher and going up and down and to and fro all over the place, just talking to people about God's love and doing things that would help them and healing the sick and feeding the hungry and doing the things that God sent him to do and that God asks of a lot of us to do. The Bible says, after Jesus left the desert, he spent much of his time telling people about God's love. In one town, Jesus healed many sick people. And the news of how Jesus healed people was spreading so that more and more people were coming to see Jesus. So there were these people that were coming from all over the place, and they actually were beginning to crowd in a little bit. And he started talking to one or two people, and then it turned into 3 or 4 people. Well, one day, Jesus went to the Sea of Galilee, and the crowd that came to see him was growing larger and larger. Jesus saw 2 boats on the beach. They were left there by fishermen who were washing their nets. So here's Jesus, he's on the beach, and people start crowding closer and closer, and there are more and more, and it's getting harder and harder for them to see who Jesus is and to hear him at the center, because there are all these people crowding around. You know how it is when people who are taller than you would stand right in front of you? There was a lot of that stuff going on. I mean, there were these fishermen, and when they caught fish, their nets would get seaweed in them and sticks and all sorts of stuff. So he talked to the fishermen that were cleaning the gunk out of their nets. And one of them was a man named Peter. And he asked Peter to push his boat further out into the water, just a short distance from the shore, so that Jesus in the boat could be further from the shore and people couldn't crowd up to him because, there's the water. You can go into your ankles, but not too much further before, it's not going to work. So Jesus kind of floats out and his voice goes back into everybody, and more people on the shore can see him than could before. And after Jesus finished speaking and telling everybody about God's love, he turned to Peter, the man who was running the boat. He said, "Go out farther into the sea and throw your nets into the water so you'll catch fish." Well, Peter answered, "We've been fishing all day long and we haven't caught anything." But all the same, he did what Jesus told him. And there he is. They went further out from the shore, and they were out in the Sea of Galilee, which is really like this huge, huge, huge lake. And here he is with his nets, and he's tossing his nets over the side of the boat while Jesus is watching. And Peter's saying, "It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Trust me, I'm a fisherman. You're a carpenter. I think I know what I'm doing." Well, when Peter and his brother Andrew pulled their nets up from the water, they were very surprised. Even though they hadn't caught a single fish all day long, now their nets were full. So, sometimes Jesus knows what he's talking about, even if we think he doesn't. He knows. He's on top of this stuff. And when they got back to shore, Peter and his brother Andrew and Jesus, there were 2 more fishermen who were there, 2 brothers named James and John. And they helped them bring all the fish in. They caught so many fish that day when they said they weren't going to catch any. They caught so very many they needed the extra help to pull everything together. In fact, the boats that they had were so full of fish that they felt like if they weren't careful, it would just sink from the weight of the fish. And that was a big catch that day. And Jesus, well, he kind of scared them. Peter knew that Jesus had filled his nets with fish, and when they landed the boat on shore, Peter fell to his knees and said, "Hey, please, go away. I've done so many bad things. I shouldn't be hanging out with you. You shouldn't be hanging out with me. I'm not good enough." And Jesus said to him, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you're going to be fishing for people." And he said the same thing to James and John. He said to them, "Hey, come, follow me, and I'll make you fish for people, not just fish." He was inviting them to go with him as he was telling people about God's love and kind of trying to reel people in and get them to think about God and to stop doing this stuff that was destructive to themselves and other people. Peter was afraid that there was no place for him because he'd been doing some bad stuff. We don't know what it was. He just says he was. And Jesus said, "No. I don't care what you've done. You've got another chance here. Why don't you take it?" And he did a lot of telling that to a lot of people because they did follow him and they went with him. And it was the beginning of a really exciting few years, about 3 years. And they'd all be together and telling people about God and learning about him from Jesus. We're going to do more of that tomorrow, okay? I'll see you then.